After I uploaded my last video about the hidden mansion in the forest, I thought the story was over. I had seen something strange, walked away, and chosen not to push further. That felt like the right decision. But there was something I didn't mention before. Not because I forgot, but because I wasn't sure how to explain it. There was another building, smaller, closer, and somehow more unsettling than the mansion itself. When I first reached the gates and noticed the large house deep in the forest, my attention was completely focused on it. It was impossible not to stare. The size, the architecture, the fact that it existed there at all. But slightly off to the side, closer to the fence line, partially hidden by trees and bushes, there was something else, a small structure. At first, I thought it was a shed, or maybe an old utility building left behind from some previous use of the land. It didn't look important. That assumption turned out to be a mistake. The closer I got, the more ordinary it looked, almost deliberately so. It was small, low, and plain. Wooden walls, darkened by time. No decorative elements, no large windows. From a distance, it could easily pass as an abandoned cabin or a forester's hut. But unlike abandoned places, it wasn't falling apart. The roof was intact. The door was straight. Nothing was broken. It didn't look loved, but it looked maintained. That contrast bothered me. I didn't touch anything. I didn't try to open the door. I simply stepped closer, maybe a few meters. And then it happened. A sharp, sudden sound cut through the forest silence. Not loud, but unmistakable. An alarm. At the same time, a small light switched on above the door, a focused beam, turning slowly, adjusting its angle. I froze, because that light wasn't random. It moved like something that was looking. It took only a second to understand what I was seeing. That wasn't a lantern. That wasn't motion lighting. It was a camera, a modern one, and it was pointed directly at me. I stepped back instinctively. The alarm stopped after a few seconds, but the light stayed on, steady, watching. Nothing else happened. No voice, no warning, just the quiet certainty that someone, somewhere, now knew I was there. That was the moment I decided to leave. Not quickly, not running, but very deliberately. On the way back, my thoughts kept returning not to the mansion, but to the small house. Because the mansion felt distant, almost symbolic. The small house felt functional, and that difference mattered. Here's the thing that bothered me most afterward. If you have a large mansion hidden deep in the forest, why would you place a small, ordinary building near the entrance? Why put something so unimpressive next to something so grand? Unless they weren't meant to serve the same purpose. I think the small house exists for the forest, not to live in, not to rest, but to control access. Think about it. The mansion is hidden, distant, and protected by isolation. The small house is close, watchful, and reactive. One is invisible by distance. The other is invisible by appearing unimportant. The mansion doesn't need to watch the outside world. The small house does. It's the first point of contact, the early warning system, the place that notices movement before anyone reaches the gates. And that explains something else, why the trail led past it. That narrow path wasn't meant for random walkers. It was a controlled rate. Anyone who followed it would be seen long before reaching the mansion, observed, assessed, allowed to continue or not. I think I was never close to the main house. I was close to the test. The alarm wasn't meant to scare me away. It was meant to confirm something. That I noticed the small house. That I reacted. That I left. In other words, that I understood the boundary. The more I thought about it, the clearer the division became. The small house watches the world. The big house stays out of it. One interacts, the other observes. And whoever lives there doesn't need walls everywhere. They need awareness. I haven't gone back since. Not because I'm afraid, but because I don't think returning would give me answers. I already crossed the line once, and I was allowed to leave. Here's the most unsettling part. If the small house is still there, watching, then it didn't react because I was doing something wrong. It reacted because I did something unexpected. I noticed what wasn't meant to be noticed. The mansion hides by distance. The small house hides by looking insignificant. Together they form a system designed not to exclude everyone, but to filter who gets close. And now I understand something I didn't before. The forest isn't empty. It's monitored. And some places don't need fences everywhere when they already know exactly who is walking toward them. I still don't know what that small house really is. Maybe it's just a technical building. Maybe it's something much more important than the mansion itself. So now I'm curious, not about the place anymore, but about your thoughts. How do you think these two buildings are connected? Because whatever the answer is, I don't think the smaller one is there by accident.